So I know you won't be able to see super well, but I still want to be able to show you some of the pictures. So let's go. You wouldn't want to live without robots. If you think robots are future technology or just in movies, think again. Real robots are here now. Millions of them already work in factories, hospitals, and homes. There are robots in space, too, helping astronauts and exploring the solar system. Some work with people or in place of people. Imagine a world without robots. If they weren't here, some of the jobs we do might be much harder. Many of the jobs they do, some dangerous or in difficult locations, might not even be done at all. So, you really wouldn't want to live in a world without robots. What's so good about robots? Lots of the things you use every day were built with the help of robots. Robots are used because they often perform better than people. They can also ease the jobs that people do. Robots can work around the clock without having to take breaks or go home. They don't get tired, they don't need vacations, or get sick. And they can work faster and more accurately than people. What do you think would happen if robots weren't here? Without them, complex products like computers and cars would take longer to build, and they would probably cost more. So how old are robots? Robots have been here for a lot longer than you might think. There were robots in the ancient world more than 2,000 years ago. They aren't called robots because the word robot hadn't been invented yet. They were known as automata, which means automatic machines. There were no computers, batteries, or electric motors, so automata were simpler than modern robots. They couldn't be programmed to do different things. They were often built to look like animals with moving legs or wings. Some were built to look like living people and were able to write, draw, or play a musical instrument. Industrial robots. Businesses are always eager to use new materials, methods, and machines to cut their costs and make better products. They were quick to start using robots. Today, there are more than 1 million industrial robots at work all over the world. Factories use them to make all sorts of things. Without their fast, precise, and high-quality work, lots of products would cost more, and they probably wouldn't be quite as well made or reliable as they are. However, robots have replaced large numbers of human workers who have had to find other types of work and in some cases be trained in new skills. Transportation. Robots are better and safer drivers than people. They aren't distracted by passengers talking to them, they don't get hired, and with the help of satellite navigation, they don't get lost. The number of robot vehicles are growing all the time. There are already driverless trains and robot planes, and the first driverless cars are now being tested on public roads. In the future, car owners might not even need to know how to drive. Robots will do it for them. Robotic vehicles of all sorts will be common, and we'll wonder how we ever managed without them. Helpers at home. Robots are beginning to appear in homes. There are robots to do vacuuming, robots to wash floors, robots to mow the lawn, and even robots to play with. People who are ill, very old, or live alone are sometimes unhappy or lonely. There are now robots designed to keep them company, like a robot pet. As new, smarter robots are developed, they will be able to do more jobs in the home. Household robots could become as common as washing machines are today, and just as hard to do without. Danger. Robots help keep human workers safe by doing the jobs that are too difficult or dangerous for people. One of the most dangerous jobs is mining. Some mines now use robot mining machines underground and robot trucks above ground. Robots have also been used to explore dangerous active volcanoes, and they have helped clean up radioactive wreckage left by accidents in nuclear power plants. If these hazardous jobs couldn't be done by robots, they would have to be done by people, or they might not be done at all. Below the waves. Oceans are difficult to explore and work in. Most human divers cannot go deeper than about 100 feet, or 30 meters. Professionals can go deeper by using special equipment, but the deepest dives are made by robots. Most of them are remotely operated vehicles, controlled by people on the surface. But there are also robots smart enough to dive completely under their own control. They're called autonomous underwater vehicles. If there were no underwater robots, some of the deep-sea work being done by industry would be impossible, and scientists would know a lot less about oceans. Space station robots. The International Space Station is a giant spacecraft orbiting Earth. It circles the world every 90 minutes. Astronauts live and work inside it. Each crew stays on board for several months. Some of the work that has to be done outside the space station is done by robots. Without them, these tasks would have to be done by astronauts. Spacewalks, when astronauts put on spacesuits and go outside into space, are hazardous. Using robots reduces the number of spacewalks that are needed and helps to keep astronauts safe. Exploring the solar system. The space probes that explore other worlds are robots. They travel so far away that instructions from Earth can take hours to reach them. This makes it difficult to control them. Imagine riding a bicycle that doesn't change direction until an hour after you've moved the handlebars. Space probes have to be smart enough to deal with problems until controllers on Earth can help them. They usually keep themselves safe by shutting down faulty systems. If these smart probes didn't exist, we wouldn't know much about other planets, and we'd miss out on the awesome photography taken by the probes. Androids. If robots and people are going to work together, sharing the same workspaces, robots will have to use the same tools, doorways, workbenches, and equipment that people use, and do it safely. The best shape and size for a robot to be to do this is the human form. Robots that look like humans are called humanoids, or androids. It has proved difficult to create a walking, talking, intelligent android, until now. There are now some very lifelike and smart androids. It may not be long before you find yourself working alongside one. There might even be android teachers one day. Movie magic. Science fiction movies show us what the future might be like, and it's often a future that includes robots. These movies demonstrate how robots might be used, which jobs they might do, and what sort of problems could be caused by super smart robots making their own decisions. While the robots in movies usually help people, they are sometimes shown as dangerous or out of control. If we plan ahead now, we can prevent such problems from happening in the real world, allowing us to live and work safely beside robots. Do robots think? If you think robots are smart today, the next generation will be even smarter. The most advanced robots can already learn new skills without having to be programmed for them. If robots can learn like humans, will they think like humans? Could they even know that they exist in the same way that we do? Some scientists think this is possible. As robots become smarter and do more complicated jobs, future generations of people may lose the skills they need to do the same jobs, making it harder for them to live without robots.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emily. Corinne, that was a wonderful experience to listen to all those kinds of robots that are all around. You know, I'm here in my lab here, and there's robots all over here. Can you people see a bunch of robots here in the picture? Raise your hand if you see a robot. Yeah. Okay, excellent. I just counted them. I think I counted 10 robots in here. And so I see them all over the place. In fact, Corinne talked about pet robots. How about this guy? You see that one? Does that look like a robot to you? Okay, so this is a robot. This is a pet robot. Looks like a little bit of a kitty, doesn't it? Can you zoom in a little bit here? We're going to check it out here. Look at that one. Who would want to have a pet like that? Would you like to have a pet like that, a pet robot? It'd be pretty nice. It doesn't mind being alone for hours at a time. It would play. This one actually will purr as well, which is kind of cute. Okay, so robots can be that kind of stuff. Now here's a robot I wanted to show you a little bit of. Anybody guess what this robot does? Can you imagine what this robot would do? Raise your hand if you think you know what it does. How about Connor? Do you know what it does? It is a battle bot. Battle bots are robots too, but they're pretty stupid robots, but they are robots. This is one that has fought a few battles. It's got a few injuries on it, but it's pretty neat. It weighs 3 pounds, and so that would do some damage. And so some robots can do that kind of stuff, but that's not the important robots. You know, since we've been talking about robots, there's a variety of different kinds of robots. Can someone tell me what all the robots have in common? Give me one thing that every robot should have. How about you? It must be Emily's relative. It says Emily. Who's that? Yeah, the green. It is true that most robots are electric. They all have a power source. Now, they don't have to be electric, but everyone in this lab does have electricity. But something else. What else do all robots have? And make sure you're really thinking about this one. What do robots all have? Yes, Katrina. Katrina, what do you think? Katrina? Saw your hand go up. They all have people.
Help people.
Oh, they all help people. Yes, that is actually one of the reasons why robots are kind of important, because they are designed by people, and so they're supposed to do things for people. So helping people is an important thing. And Corinne mentioned some of the things that they can help you with. That's great. But these are tasks that robots do. But if you had to describe what a robot was going to be, you know, and I want you to make sure you use your heads about this. How about you? It's Kristen. Kristen. See you raising your hand there. What do you think? The big what?
A specific task in mind.
Okay, so they all do have a task, and they all get programming. In order to get programmed, what must a robot have? TMD. What? I see you. Go ahead. What do you think they must have if they have programming? I'm going to give you a hint here. What do all people have that robots also have? Who said that?
Yeah.
You say a brain? Someone said a brain? Absolutely. That is the one thing that all robots have. All robots must have a brain that they can be programmed to do tasks to help people. Now, the other thing that's interesting about robots and people, which isn't common, because sometimes robots and people can do similar things, is that in order for the brain to work, it must know what's going on around about it. And so that means that every robot must have the same thing that you have, which are sensors. Now, you may not know this, but you guys have at least 7 sensors. You can see, you can hear, you can taste, you can touch, and something else. Smell. You can smell. Now, I must tell you that some of our robots do smell, but they don't have a sense of smelling. But almost all of the robots you see in this building do have some sense of hearing or sight. And so robots have a brain, they have sensors, and then they have things that move. They have wheels or arms or something that moves. They have to interact with the actual environment. And finally, this is the interesting part about robots, is that robots also know something about themselves. They have a sense of what they've done. And so robots in that way are kind of like people. Now, who wants to see a robot in operation? Anybody want to see a robot move? Oh, I see some people do. Okay. So I'm going to have Corinne here. Corinne is going to operate a robot here. It's one of our favorite robots. We built this robot a couple of years ago. And let me tell you a little bit about robots you can build. First off, you folks are all in the age where you could be building your own robots, believe it or not. They'd be kind of small and simple, but they would be really cool. They'd have the elements. But the robot we're going to show here was actually built by students, but they're high school students. So they're a little bit older than you, and they're pretty complicated, but they have the same basic sort of stuff. And so for those of you who want to be involved with the robot team, make sure you talk to your teachers, and your parents can help them out there, but they can get involved with these programs that are very similar to the one we're going to bring out. So Corinne, bring out this robot. I hear it starting. There she comes. It's coming. Okay. Now spin it around a little bit so we can look at the camera there. Okay. This is called the Raptor Goat. And what you hear there, if you did hear it, was the sound of air pressure being built onto it, because it operates on electricity, but also with air pressure. Same thing you would have like in a squirt gun or inside of a balloon. Now, it has sensors, it has a brain, it also has really cool LEDs. And so, why don't you just come here and just spin it around. Come right here in the middle here and spin it around, Corinne. Now, Corinne is championship driver, maybe not, but it's pretty fast robot, and it doesn't know enough not to hit me. Bad robot. Okay, but as you guys are smart enough to understand that a robot isn't very important unless it has some task. And so this robot, even though it's designed to move really quickly and it has lots of mechanism, remember this was all built by students, high school students. But its task was pretty complex. It had to play a game, not soccer, not baseball, but a robot game. And it would be a team with there'd be three other robots on the field. And actually, on this game, there were 5 other robots, weren't there? Yes. Mm-hmm. There were 3 robots on one team and 3 robots on the other team. So one of the things it had to do was to pick up great big balls. Now, playing with balls is something that we can do too, but this robot had to do it in a really quick and interesting manner. So let's see if Corinne can make this robot pick up a ball. Now, can you flash over to Corinne, show what she's controlling here? She's got some control boards here. So she's got some bunch of controls. And those controls are going to allow her to do a bunch of things here, what she figures out. We're going to collect some cargo.
Yeah.
So she's going to push one button. Now you can come back down here. And when she does that, this happens. Whoops. Whoa. She can try that again. Try that again. Cut cargo. There we go. Okay. So the robot was smart enough to know that it had a ball there. It's going to bring the ball in, and then it says, I know I've got a ball, so then it's going to bring it up so we can drive around a little bit. Now, collecting cargo was because this game was a simulated outer space venture. And so you had to pick up these balls, which are called cargo, and then deliver them to another site. And so we're going to see if she can deliver it into another site here. So let's turn it around here, Corinne, without hitting me, and we'll put it into... Let's put it into this hole right here. So she's going to push a button that makes it go up. The middle button there, the yellow one probably. Yeah, and then she's going to drive forward slowly and down just a little bit there. There we go. Drive forward. And deliver cargo to me. Oh, drive forward. There we go. Well, this robot, it hasn't been used for a little while, so it's a little bit shaky on that. Now, you can imagine that if you were a good robot and you had a really fast operator, you could pick up a lot of these balls, kind of like basketball where you're putting the balls into hoops, but in this case, you're putting them into these kinds of stands here. Now, it does more than that. So let's get rid of this ball here. And let's bring up back the rope up a little bit here, Corinne. Now, if you can imagine, once you have put a ball into this spaceship, you want to put a hatch cover on so the cargo can't come out. These are the hatch covers. These great big plastic things are hatch covers. So the robot's going to have to figure out how it can move a hatch cover from this collector to put it, maybe up to here. So let's see if she can do that. She's going to say, there she goes. She's starting to think about it. The robot's going to be thinking over here, coming in here. Let's see if it can figure this out. It's going to do most of this by itself. I'm going to help it just a little bit because Corinne's driving. There we go. Whoops. Okay, let's try it again. Try it again. There we go. Slightly over this way. There we go. It's kind of hard for her to see that. There you go, straight ahead. There we go. Okay. Now she backs up gently. Oh, and now hits one button that makes it go up high, all the way to the top. Whoa. Now this did this automatic. When she hit that one button, it knew exactly how high to go. And then she's going to drive forward and try to put it right onto here. Let's see if she can do this. See if she can do it. Now deliver. There we go, and backs off. And there it is. Good robot. So now you can imagine that if you were working with a robot like people do, that if you were really good at controlling this robot, you could do a lot of those quickly. And unlike battle bots, your job is not to destroy another robot, but to score more points than they do. It may be more fun to destroy robots sometimes, but this is more challenging. And robots often do things which are very challenging. So let's bring this baby back down here. Okay, now, at this point, if you guys were here live with me, I would start asking you to ask me or Corinne some questions about robots. And the reason for doing that is so that we know what you want to know and that you can learn more about robots or maybe math or science that deal with robots. I have a couple other things I'm going to show you about this robot, but at this moment, I'm going to look over here in the Zoom and see if anybody has a question that could either go to Corinne or myself. Maybe, Corinne, come over here. It might be a question concerning something she said about in the book, or it could be something you know about robots or a question you have about robots. So let's go ahead and see if any questions pop up. Raise your hand if you've got a question. Anything about robots? Okay, I see a question here from...
Katrina and Graham have a question.
All right, you call them out. Emily, you pick one.
How about Katrina? You want to ask your question first?
Katrina, I see your hand up. Katrina, you still have that question?
How do they see?
Oh, okay. Let me just turn this robot around a little bit here. I'm going to give you some demonstrations of that. Now, let's let the camera zoom in here quickly right to here. Can you see this?
1 second.
It's coming. This is a camera. This is a single eye. And so oftentimes a robot will have a camera that's just like a camera on your cell phone that actually can take a picture. And then using that picture, there's another one right up here too, by the way. There's two of them. There's one camera here and one camera there. This robot uses those cameras so that it can actually automatically do what Corinne was trying to do there. It can actually look at this environment and do that whole loading autonomously, which is another fancy word for meaning that it has a very smart program and it can do things without any humans involved. I'm going to show you an example of that a little bit later. Good question. Next question.
All right, next is Graham has his hand up, and then we'll call on Elliot.
Okay, Graham.
Why is there an orange light flash on the robot?
Ah.
You want to answer that one, Corinne?
Sure. So that's really for the safety of the people around. So when that light is on and it's solid orange like that, we know that it's disabled. So if anyone were to go and touch the controls, nothing's going to happen. If we enable the robot, you'll see that it starts blinking. So that lets all the people around know that it's on and it can be moving. So that's mostly as a safety feature for us people, because we're a lot more fragile than the robot is.
Good question.
All right, next Elliot had a question.
Elliot?
How do you make robots?
How do we make a robot? I'll start that one up because I have been working with robots for about 22 or 3 or 4 years. And the truth of the matter is that a robot like this, that is this complicated, no one can make by themselves. It takes a team to make a robot. It takes people who are both really good with their hands, but also really good with their heads. It takes a lot of thinking. You have to do what's called brainstorming. You ever heard of that? Brainstorming? That's where you think of crazy ideas. And then this particular robot is built with all sorts of industrial materials, metals and plastics, and so we just have to manufacture it ourselves. There are robots that are much simpler that you can build by using Legos, for example. or using other parts like that. But that's it. The most important thing about building a robot is to understand that it takes really good thinking before you start building. And Corinne and I are part of a team. No one person could have ever built this robot. It's too complicated. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we had a question in the chat from Lisa Baxter about how robots smell.
Hopefully they don't smell. Generally, if they smell, that means something has gone wrong. Like a motor burning out, like where it gets too hot and it says, nope, that's enough for me. And it'll send some smoke and some bad smell. Generally, though, they don't smell.
That's exactly right. The robots in here should not smell bad. But I will tell you that I built a robot some years ago that had a sense of smelling. It was designed to be a rescue robot. And so it would go into buildings that were flooded or under hurricane damage, and it would smell to see if there were any flammable gases like propane or butane around, and if it was a hazard. And it also could smell to see if there were other toxins around. So we do have robots that can smell, but not important for us in this situation.
Yeah.
Good question.
Connor has his hand up.
Connor, go ahead. Grandson.
How high can a robot go in space until it cannot go any higher?
How high can it go?
Okay, how high can a robot go in space until it can't go any higher?
Well, I'll start that question. High is relative to where you are, I guess. And so certainly we have robots which are flying at the same altitude as birds. We have robots that go as high as airplanes. And of course we have robots that are going out in space orbiting the Earth. We also right now I think have 4 or 5 robots which are on Mars, which is really high or very long. And we actually have robots that have gone all the way out to the end of our solar system. It takes them 10 years to get out there. But so we have robots that are as high as you want to go. There is no limit for how far a robot can go. This robot can't go very high. But I'm going to show you that it can go about 1.5 feet higher than it is right now by itself in a little while. So another good question, but they can go deep, like Corinne said, into the ocean, and they can go as high as you want to send them. Good question, Connor.
All right, I see that Christian has his hand up.
Christian,
Then we'll go to Gloria after that. Christian.
go ahead, Christian.
My question is, what is the robot's power source? How much electricity does it use? And how long does its power last before it needs to be recharged?
Wow. Well, Corinne's going to show you what we use for these robots. Go ahead, talk to her about that.
Yeah, so for this robot right here, it uses a battery like this, which is like an old car battery. It has this place you can plug it in, and these last, depending on how much you are using them, probably 5 or 10 minutes of really good power. They can go a little bit longer than that, but we generally change them out after every 2 to 3 minute match just because we want them to be nice and fresh. Different robots have different types of batteries depending on what they need. Do you want to talk about that more?
Yeah, so we have, again, like Corinne showed, this is a competitive robot, and so we actually change the battery. We actually change the battery every 2 minutes when we're in competition. And indeed, if you think about the little BattleBot batteries, the little BattleBot robots, these robots eat their batteries for lunch. They run them so hard that their batteries will be totally dead within a couple minutes. On the other hand, I'm working on a robot now that's supposed to go to Africa that's going to be able to go 20 miles. It's going to be able to go for 4 hours straight navigating through roads. And so it depends about what you want to do, but generally these robots are designed for a very short, the matches are only 2.5 minutes long or so it doesn't have to last very long. Good question.
Mm-hmm.
We had a hand up from Gloria Lopez.
Okay, Gloria?
Go ahead.
Where is your robot's
You want to show them where the brain is, Corinne? Because now this robot, we think about a head and we think about where your eyes are and your nose and your mouth and your brain. The most important thing probably in the head is the brain. So I think Corinne will show you where the brain is on this robot.
Ugh, I can turn it around. So in this robot, the brain is this big gray box right here. Doesn't look anything like our brains, huh? But this is where all of the robot's thinking happens. It knows how to drive from there. It does all of its thinking about the things that it's sensing in there. Yeah, so that's this robot's brain. But I don't know if I would call that the head if we're talking about something that looks like an animal or something like that.
Very good.
All right, there's a question from Mara.
Go ahead.
What is the purple thing in the robot that's kind of glowing?
Oh, are you talking about all of these lights up here?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, these are technically what they are. They're light-emitting diodes, but they actually serve a function. Remember, Corinne was saying that this light was kind of to know if the robot was alive or not. Look what happens to these lights when we turn it on. See, notice now they've changed colors? And so this is an indication also that the robot is ready to do something cool. Now, it also changed colors, doesn't it, when you put them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now watch these lights when it grabs this. Did you see the color change? So that this color also tells the driver that they've accomplished what they wanted to do. And so that's pretty good. You want to release this? There we go.
So it'll do a different color for one of these.
Ah. So when it changed to purple, it tells everybody on the field that I found a ball and I've got the ball. And now it's red again, saying I'm ready to do something. Now it's kicked it out and it's changed colors again. So those are kind of indicators that we use to so that without even hearing the robot, you can tell what it's doing because of these lights. Good question.
Do we have any more questions for folks?
Well, if there are not, then let me just show you a kind of a cool thing this robot can do. So I'm going to show you have it do something very, very clever. Now, like this, okay. Okay, let's imagine that one of the tasks of your robot, besides collecting balls and putting these hatch covers on, is to climb up on this big panel. Now that's a big step for a robot with no legs to do. Can you imagine how the robot's going to be able to do that? So it's going to use a lot of sensors and it's going to use a lot of smarts. Now I'm going to have Corinne turn it around and kind of back up that direction. So just turn around and get back there when you get there. Yep, good, good, good. A little further back, okay, and then line her up to this thing. Now, we're in the last few minutes of the match. And we know that if we can get our robot to get on top of this block by itself, that we will win this match. It's kind of like high robot is going to win. So what she's going to do, she's approached up here, she's going to see prepare. Now watch this. Whoa, did you see those come up? It now has little arms up there. Can you imagine what it's going to do now? Okay, drive slowly up to this block, Corinne. Keep going, a little further. There we go. Okay, now, so now you can see it's prepared to climb, but how can it get off the ground because its wheels are still on the ground? So show the big button that he's going to push. Look right there and look at this controls. There's a great big button there. And in a moment, I'm going to have her push that button. Let's go back at the robot and see what happens. And by the way, folks, that's the only control that she's going to touch. She's not doing anything else. She's going to push the button and she's going to come right over here next to me so you can see she's not doing anything else. Okay, because I don't want, there's no trick. Robot's going to do this all by itself. She's not going to trip on the cord when she comes over here. Okay, so can you guys give me a countdown from, say, 5? Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Push the button. Come over here. There she goes. It's going up by itself. Nobody touched it. It's moving up by itself. Okay. There we go. Very good. So, a while ago we were wondering how high a robot can get. Well, this robot can get up here by itself. Now that's pretty tricky, and it requires it to have a very smart brain and a whole bunch of sensors so it knows where to do what when it gets up here. It turns out this robot was amazingly successful at doing this. When we went to our very first tournament, we were the #1 seated robot at the end of all the qualifying matches. So we could do this every single time. So, we learned a little bit about robots. Say a few closing words here, Corinne.
Well, this has been really fun. I hope this made you all excited about robots. I was probably about your age, maybe a little bit older when I started doing robot stuff, starting with the little tiny Lego robots that Ken had mentioned earlier, and now I'm building these and all kinds of different cool things. So, highly recommend. It's a lot of fun.
With Corinne saying this, I address this to especially you girls out there. Do you think that girls or guys can build better robots? What do you think? Or what about driving robots? You think a girl can drive a robot as well as a guy could? I see some thumbs up there. Well, let me tell you what the answer is here. It makes no difference. And this is amazingly important for you to understand at your age, is that you can be anything you want to be. If you want to be a robot engineer or a robot driver, or maybe you want to go in space and become an astronaut. You know, the very first person to drive a robot in outer space was Sally Ride. She was our first female astronaut to go out there, and her job was to operate a robot. So, for those of you interested in robots, keep studying that math and science. Learn to work together in partnership to use your brain first, and you can be as much as you want to be. You could be a robot builder, you could be a robot designer, you could be a robot operator, you could be an astronaut building robots. So thank you all very much. We're really happy to show you some of our toys.
Yeah.
And wish you the best.